Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Coaching Hub. In this episode, we spoke to Lawrence Badman, a coach with a wealth of experience across South Wales, both as a coach and as an educator. I hope you enjoy. Okay. Firstly, Lawrence, thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate your time. I know you've recently gone in a new role at Ponty. How have you found going back in at that level?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity. So yeah, I've recently gone back in as assistant manager at Pontypridd United in the Cymru South. It's been it's been a little bit, I won't say frustrating because that'd be the wrong term, but it's been a little bit hit and miss at the moment just because of the flow of games. So the scheduled fixtures, we played two games and then the third game was called off because of the weather. Then there was a big gap. And now we've just started back playing, so it's starting now to get into the flow of things. Like any club that I've been at, there's good people there. There's from the secretary and the lad who sorts everything out from the kit, etc. There's good people there. Some of the players there I know I've coached previously, or I know them through other areas, coach education, etc. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. Obviously, fantastic facilities at the University of South Wales Sports Park with the indoor barn, the outdoor 4G pitch, and as I said, a good group of players who, they're well, really competitive. They want to do well. They train well. And yeah, enjoying it, and obviously, appreciated the opportunity from Andy Whittington, the manager, and Steve Savage, who's the director of football, who I know really well. So yeah, enjoying it so far.
In terms of you said then about some games being called off, obviously you won't have that issue with the 3G pitch. How have you found, because there's been a big push around criteria and facilities and stuff, do you think there's still a big gap between some of the facilities in the league in terms of, I won't say the top teams because everyone not having the best facilities means you're the top team, but there's some teams have much better facilities still than other teams in the league. Maybe those that have just come up from tier three that have only just met, maybe are just trying to meet criteria for tier three and then having to meet criteria for tier two. Do you think there's still a big gap in terms of those facilities, and maybe that's a reason for the games being called off? Maybe.
I think, not sure saying there's a big gap would be the right term, but there's obviously, quite a number of teams with 3G pitches. And I use Cambrian as an example. We played Cambrian on New Year's Day. It's a club that I was previously at as assistant manager and head of the development team a number of years ago. Fantastic club with great facilities. But they've built them up over, the last 15, 20 years. So, it doesn't happen overnight. And I think there are clubs then with a grass pitch who've got good facilities, but it costs a lot of money to get a 3G pitch.
Yeah.
Cambrian, as I said, they have a fantastic community scheme, which is not just about a football club,
Mm-hmm.
it's the community scheme. So they've been able to develop that way, where other clubs are developing in different ways. But there is fantastic support out there from particularly from the Cymru Football Foundation, where there is funding to help clubs develop even further. However, there's not an unlimited pot of money with the Cymru Football Foundation. Whilst they've put millions of pounds into the infrastructure of clubs across Wales, um, it's not so easy to afford a 3G pitch, I guess. So yeah, there's difference in facilities. Most of the clubs in the Cymru South will have floodlights. There are a small number that haven't. But then again, with the grass pitches and the weather we've had at the moment, or the weather we continue to have, it's not always easy. I'll give an example then. Really bad weather. I think it was at the end of November. It was our first game at Pontypridd United with away to Lantway Major. Really bad weather, grass pitch. I thought there's no way this game will be on. But to be fair, God, even driving down there, I thought, nah, this is going to be called off. But the way they had looked after their pitch, um, obviously the pitch was soft. It cut up because it had been torrential rain, but the way they looked after their pitch was fantastic. And the game was played. There wasn't many games on that day. So even though the clubs, some clubs have, more advanced facilities than others, there's, the clubs are still themselves are still doing a really great job. Another example, um, Cardiff Draconians, they're in tier three. I believe they're top of tier three, but
Yeah, they're the big win
yesterday,
yesterday.
yeah, yeah. Yesterday morning when I was in the gym, seen a friend of mine who's part of the staff at Cardiff Drax, and he said he didn't think their game would be on because of the weather, but he was going there straight from the gym to because he helps look after the pitch, and they got their game on. Again, they've done fantastic work. I remember Cardiff Drax when they were in the old South Wales Amateur League, and they've done fantastic work there. So there's a lot of good work going on with a lot of clubs across the country, and I say, full credit to them because in the main, people are volunteers.
Yeah.
Well, they're putting a lot of work in to develop, their criteria. And I do think across the country, the facilities and the standards are rising all the time.
Yeah. In terms of the way that obviously you've been in Ponty now for a little bit, but do you find it difficult to find a way to play when you've got a 3G pitch? So, and you may not play a certain way because you've got a 3G pitch, but then you might play, like you said, you might be on your 3G pitch one week, then you get a land to it in November where the pitch is heavy, then you might go back to a home game, then you might go to another grass pitch away. Do you find that that makes it difficult to adapt, or do you try and play the same way regardless if you're on 3G or grass? And what are the challenges with that?
I wouldn't say we find it difficult to adapt because the players are experienced enough. They've, they've played on grass obviously for years. They play on 3G and they're able to adapt. I think we would change the way we play depending on the environment. Again, when we played Lantway Major, it wasn't only rain, there was high winds as well. So, obviously you've got to adapt your way of playing. Whereas, on the 3G pitch on a nice day, like when we played up in Cambrian, it wasn't the nicest of days weather-wise, but the pitch it's a new 3G pitch. It's fantastic. And we were able to play football the way we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
However, down in Latway Major, you have to adapt. And I think we may come onto it further on in the meeting, but I think you have to adapt as a coach, you have to adapt as a team, you have to adapt as players for all number of reasons. So yeah, the players are fine, they can adapt easily anyway.
Yeah. Just coming on to your experience in football coaching, what inspired you initially to get into coaching? Um, and how did you get to where you are today?
Yes, simply my sons. That inspired me. I When I was 19 years of age, I went to work in industry for a subsidiary of British Coal. So I worked shift work for 16, 17 years, I think it was. But then when my oldest son, when he was about 6 or 7, started playing football, because I work shift work and I work weekends, so I only had one weekend off in four, etc. And I work nights, afternoons, etc. Um, but when he started playing with his local club, um, basically me being me, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to help out, so I started helping out. Now this was before club accreditation, before you had to have a football leaders award, etc. Um, but I was just helping out as a coach, helping out with the guys who were running the team. And then when my youngest son started playing, um, I did my football leaders award with the club, started running his team. They were like under sixes at the time. So that's what started me off. And then as I kind of progressed, if you like, with the team, wanting to gain more information, more knowledge, um, I started to do more things. It was in my area, the local football development officer at the time was Tony Avo, who became a mentor of mine. And I started helping Tony, which led to, working at development centres, etc. And then my coaching just went from there. I was coaching, as I said, my youngest son's team. I actually coached them from under sixes up to under 18s through every age group. But alongside that, then I started doing other stuff, as I said. And then in 2002, I got made redundant. I was 36 years of age, and rather than looking for another job, my wife was, well, still is a nursery nurse, but took a chance really. I went to University of Glamorgan as it was at the time, to do a sports science degree, and didn't really know what I wanted to do after it. But as I said, I was heavily involved with Tony, heavily involved with coaching, and then heavily involved at my local club, Treforest, where I became first team manager as well as coaching the kids. And then at the end of my degree, my sports science degree, after a year, I was lucky enough to get a job as an assistant football development officer, supporting Tony in RCT, which is a massive area, as you're probably aware. And then Tony retired. I think it was about a year and a half after that, and I got his role, and he progressed from there. Then doing my coach education, I was the football development officer for the FAW. Um, Worked my way up, got an A license and a youth A license. Went back and did a master's in sports performance performance coaching at University of South Wales, as it now is. Yeah, things just progressed from there. So yeah, initially it started with my son, my oldest son, helping out, and I got the bug for it, as people do, and I wanted to help people. But experience wise, then, as I said, first team manager at Treforest, and I did some coaching the girls' regional squads with the FAW in my role as a coach educator. I was lucky enough to Grant Calhar, who you may know from University of South Wales. He was working with us at the time, and he led the learning disability national squad for Wales. So I went in with Grant as well and become the education officer and a coach. So good experience there as well. Um, and then yeah, after leaving Treforest, I'm still at Treforest behind the scenes, but I went into the Welsh League, then worked at Taffs Well, fantastic club with great people. Cambrian, had a season then at Barrytown United in the Cymru Premier League, which again was was fantastic. But I had to leave there. Just I couldn't commit to what was needed really. And then had a couple of months off, and then went back into Pontypridd United, which is kind of 10 minutes from my house. So I'm able to give them the commitment it needs. So yeah, that's kind of the journey, if you like. Um, Coach at USW, or University of Glamorgan, then USW, with the Bucks teams for quite a number of years, mainly the seconds, but did have a spell with the first team when Lee Kendall was the head coach, and obviously Steve Savage was um, the director of football, if you like. So yeah, lots and lots of different experiences, I guess. And I've tried to I've taken bits from everything, taken bits from everybody I've worked with. Um, I try to learn from everything, whether it's reading a book, listening to a podcast, which I do a lot of, try and take bits, and not always what I want to do. There's bits that I think, well, I wouldn't do it that way. That's not to say that's wrong, that how people do things, but you have to be yourself, don't you? So
Yeah,
yeah, that's the journey, really.
yeah. It can be interesting sometimes. If you listen to a podcast and it's got a certain name on it, and just because they say it, it's seen as gospel, isn't it? When actually you think,
Yeah.
well, actually, no, I do disagree with that. In terms of that initial that you spoke then about what initially made you go into coaching, where your sons were playing, you thought, I want to get involved. Where did that football buzz come from? Was it from playing, or was it just from being a supporter of the club, or was that initial buzz for you that wanted
I
you to get involved?
Yeah, I think I've always been the type. My character's always the type to want to organize things, being busy.
Yeah,
Uh, I won't say I played a lot when I was younger, because for a number of reasons, but the area I was from in Pontypridd, a place called the Graig, had no football at the time, no sport at the time. They have now. They've got a thriving club now, but at the time they didn't. So I played a little bit at Pontypridd YMCA. Um, but I had the buzz for watching. So yeah, it's not the right time, but for want of a better term, I'm a lifelong supporter of Man United. I'm a season ticket holder. Obviously, had some bad times, then really good times, and going through some bad times. So, from the age of, 15, 16, I've been going to Manchester, and that was the bug. But obviously, when I've still got my season ticket, I've had my season ticket about 30 odd years now. But again, because I want to organize, I'm busy. When my son started playing, then I wanted to get involved. So that kind of so I've always been around football in some way, shape, or form. Always. But and it's kind of like all of us, it's our life. It's not only a job, it's a
Yeah,
hobby as well. It's always been around it, but it was more, being a supporter that gave me the bug, and then yeah, seeing my sons playing and like all grassroots clubs, they all need helpers, so that started. Probably had no thought at the time of, I could try and make this a career. That came after I was made redundant. But yeah, that kind of inspired me. So it was my son, or my sons, I should say, my oldest son first, then the youngest son running the team. Um, yeah, that was the inspiration behind it. And then wanting to be better, just that personal drive to want to be better in what I'm doing. Um, Always struggled with confidence, but yeah, wanting to be better to help them then, and to
yeah,
help not just them then, help the players. Um, and then now, in my role as the South Grassroots Coach Education Lead for the FAW, helping the coaches. Helping the
yeah.
coaches. Yeah.
That's really good. I went to university at 21, so you said you went at 36. I went at 21, so I didn't go straight away. And similar, I went because I loved football, and it wasn't anything that I thought, well, I'm going to go to university, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. It's probably similar to when you supported Man United and they're winning all those games, winning all those trophies and leagues. You never think this where they are now would come, and it's probably similar where you are now in terms of your experience. When you first went to university, you probably thought you would never achieve maybe or what you have achieved, or maybe don't have a plan. Was that something that are you surprised by? Not maybe surprised by how much you've achieved, but maybe how much it just snowballs. Where, like you say, you do that thing and then you think, well, I've done that, but then something else comes up, and then something else comes up. It's just something all the time, isn't it? There's always a different way to develop, isn't it? Are you surprised by how much it's just you've just grown, I suppose, as a professional?
Yeah, I am. I think it's, we don't, as human beings, our natural instinct, or for most people's natural instinct, is to look at the negatives. Um, and I don't think I probably give myself enough credit for some of the things I have been able to do. You kind of have that little bit of imposter syndrome, thinking, well, I've worked with, people who've been professional football players. I work with people who've been professional football players. I've worked with people who've been managers, and you kind of, and really good people as well. Not only really good at what they do, but good people. And that's key. But you kind of think, "Well, should I, you know, I worked shift work for 16 years, for the subsidiary of British Coal, as I said. Do I do I deserve to be in this same environment to these people who've had fantastic careers and really educated and also, as I said, good people? So you have that bit of imposter syndrome. But then when I actually, when you take the time to reflect, think, well, some of the things I've achieved myself is I deserve to pat myself on the back. And that's not a kind of, probably is a little bit of an ego thing as well. But I think, yeah, we look at the negatives, but I need to look more. So yeah, I'm a bit surprised, I guess, from where they came from. So my family are, my dad, my uncles, kind of all roof tilers, worked in the building industry. So I was working on the roof when I was 13 or 14 with my dad and my uncles, and never had any thoughts of this type of career. Um, and that, as I said, that came when I was kind of older and started to get into the football, I guess.
Yeah, I think some people that are listening to this, I think maybe are probably similar to myself in terms of going to university, don't have a playing background. But if you look at a lot of environments, there are people in there that have got maybe previous playing experience, like I say, ex pros and things like that. But there's also people in there that haven't got that. So you don't necessarily have to have worked in a or played a professional level or really high level. You can. I come from a town in mid Wales where there's there wasn't a huge amount around us. In terms of facilities, there's still from where I am the nearest 3G pitch I think is over an hour away. So in terms of facilities and things like that, but I don't reflect on my pathway too much in terms of where I am. But I think I've achieved quite a bit, I suppose, and I think that's important to understand for people. In terms of your philosophy, then, how would you describe your coaching philosophy, and who and what has influenced this?
I think my coaching philosophy probably does change a little bit and has changed a little bit over the years. So when I first started out, I think on reflection, I was kind of negatively influenced by certain people in the grassroots game at the club I was at. Um, in as much as I think there was too much emphasis on winning, and I think I got caught up in that. Before I'd done my coach education, this was, prior to being educated, I guess, but in a football sense. But I think they probably it probably influenced me in a way that, winning was the be all and end all with young children. Now, look, I'm all for striving to win, whether children are 7 or 20 or they're adults at 27. I'm all for striving to win, but there's a way of doing it as well. And I think as I've got more experience, I guess, I think my philosophy is ensuring, I'll break this up into different age groups if I can. So ensuring that, it's fun, it's engaging, and that's for all age groups, youngsters, professional players, whoever, they all want it to be fun, they all want it to be challenging, they all want it to be engaging. We want them players to keep coming back week after week, whether they're paying £3 a week to play or whether they're being paid a couple of £100 a week to play. Um, so, as I said, I think striving to win is important, but my kind of philosophy is, it's important to build them relationships up with players because everybody wants something different. Everybody's why is different to why they're taking part in football. And I think, there's when we're talking philosophy, there's playing philosophy, obviously, and there's like kind of a coaching philosophy. So in this situation, I'm probably talking more from a coaching philosophy, is in, I want, like a lot of people, I want to be liked. Do you know what I mean? So I want to be liked like a lot of people, but I think, the philosophy is then building them relationships with the players, seeing their development. Um, I think, yeah, definitely challenging them. The coaching philosophy would be, a psychologically safe environment, so mistakes are accepted, they're acknowledged, but then they're obviously dealt with in as much as, that could be technical, tactical detail to deal with the mistakes to support the players. So I think, yeah, that's the philosophy. But I guess one of the biggest buzzes I get now from my days coaching grassroots football is a lot of these well, all these players now with my son's team are like early 30s. And when I see them, and some are not playing, some are playing in the Cymru South, Cymru Premier League, etc. But when I see them is kind of that kind of relationship, and you can see there's mutual respect, and that, when I was doing a junior team, and this junior team was pretty successful in the junior leagues, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all if they won cups. It did at the time and it does to them, but to me it doesn't mean anything. What my biggest buzz, as I said, is how proud I feel when I speak to them, and I know there's a mutual respect there, and how I've seen them develop not just as football players, but as individuals. You know, a lot of them now got their own families, their own children, their own careers. Um, so yeah, that's my kind of coaching philosophy. Um, is how we kind of adapt to people. So a couple of examples, I guess, is there was one senior player that I'm still friends with now. He's retired now, but there was one senior player that I managed that I had to be a little bit harsh on him. I had to say things to him because his reaction was to always prove me wrong. But then there was another senior player who was more, probably outwardly more aggressive, more confident, but he had to have the arm around his shoulder because inwardly he wasn't that confident. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I think that was, how can I put this? That's probably the biggest thing from the coaching philosophy is to adapt to the individual's needs, get to know the people, um, what makes them tick, what what doesn't. I can give another example, and it's someone I don't know, but I was doing a session, and I give this. It was a coach education session, and I give this coach. It was some feedback. He'd made a mistake. I gave him some feedback, and it wasn't negative feedback, but I saw straight away from my observations how that affected him negatively. So the next time he was on the ball, I felt I had to give him some real praise, overpraise probably,
yeah,
but because I seen his reaction and I didn't want to lose him from the course. Do you know what I mean? As I said, it wasn't negative feedback anyway. It was just trying to support him. But maybe because I had done that during the practice, and there's other players there who were of a decent standard. Maybe he felt a little bit embarrassed by it. I don't know.
mm,
You know what I mean? So I think, if I was to treat him the same way as I treated the first player I spoke about, it's not going to work. If I was to treat the first player the way I talked about the second player, it wouldn't work for him because he
yeah,
needed a little bit of stick, if that makes sense.
yeah. Do you find, sorry, just sorry to interrupt there, in terms of your coach education stuff, do you find that the the first courses, the initial courses, say it's the C certificate, UEFA C, I think it is now, and the B license. Do you think it's the coaches on there find it more difficult to receive feedback because of maybe their experience of receiving feedback, if that makes sense? Or maybe initially when they first start the course to when they get to the end of the course, so maybe a first observation to a last observation. Do you think there's a difference there because of how much experience they've got with actually receiving feedback and they just see it as criticism?
That's a really good point. Potentially for some, but again, everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's why for doing the FAWC certificate or the UEFA C license or the UEFA B license is different. I guess, yeah, maybe I should rephrase that. Everybody's why for doing the FAWC certificate is different. I think as you go up the pathway to the C license, the B license, A license, then while there'll still be some differences, obviously, them differences are smaller. So on the C certificate, the FAWC certificate, their why may be that they need it for club accreditation.
Yeah.
Whereas on the C license and the B license, they maybe want to progress with their own career, if that makes sense. But I think, again, done lots of these courses over the years, and as I said, everybody's why is different, but people's experiences are different. So some people may have received negative criticism when they've been a player with certain coaches, and maybe they feel that's the way it should be done. You
Yeah.
know, whilst quite a lot of the coaches who come on the FAWC certificate in particular are mums and dads who started out coaching mainly for the same reasons I did.
Mm.
So they're kind of they're an open book. they'll have perceptions, as everybody does when they go and do something before they do it. But maybe, yeah, I guess it's, to put it into a term, I guess, is that I want them and we want them when they come on the courses. My main priority is, to model that fun, engaging, challenging, competitive environment. And we're never ever gonna, on our courses, as you'll be fully aware of, we're never gonna tell people they should do something this way.
Mhm.
It's kind of guiding them, I guess, to find their own way. But if you model that good behavior, hopefully they will take that into their own environment then with their own players. So yeah, long-winded answer, I guess, but some people will have that perception that it's got to be hard. You've got to be hard on players, etc., and dig them out all the time. That's the modern type of player not going to accept that.
Yeah.
There's a different way of doing that.
Mm. I know you spoke about sort of building rapport and some of the recent experiences as you spoke about being at Ponty, some of the players. If you were to go into a new environment and maybe you didn't know the players or you knew one or two but didn't know the rest of the squad, would there be something that you would think, right, this is the first thing that I need to do to help build that relationship? What would that be in terms of your first thing? Right, I need to make sure I do this.
Yeah, so that actually, I'd say that probably happened at Barrytown United, where I did know one or two, but not a lot of them. And I think, my first thought is you have to make an impression. Whether
Mm-hmm.
I did or not, other people would have to answer that. But it'd be more getting to know them individually, having them. I'm I feel I'm better one to one rather than group in
Yeah.
that environment. So I think it's, getting to know them, listening to what other people are saying, listening to and what I mean by listening to what other people are saying to them, or how they are reacting to each other, rather than listening to what people are saying behind their backs, because that happens, unfortunately. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll always take things as I find anyway. But yeah, just finding out little bits about them and then delving a little bit deeper. So trying to create that individual bond, really, to yeah to get buy-in, because you need buy-in. You
Yeah.
need buy-in anyway. Um, so yeah, that's the kind of first thing I want people to, or players to see that I'm going to be there to try and help them in whatever way that is, whether that's from a coaching point of view, or whether it could be something they need support on outside of football. I'm always open to help people with that.
Yeah. In terms of maybe some of the qualities, you spoke about your own philosophy. If you were to say pick five qualities that you think are really important to be effective in coaching, now there's obviously more than five, but if you were to think of five off the top of your head that you think are really important, what do you think they are, and why do you think they're important?
So I've already spoke about some of them, but that being adaptable,
Yeah.
it's as I said, it's adaptable to the individuals and the collective. It's been adaptable to the environment. If you're outside and it's pouring down with rain, you're gonna have to be adaptable to that. It's been adaptable to the numbers of players. So as every coach will know and would have experienced, that you were expecting, let's say it's 12 players and then nine turn up, or you're expecting, you've got 16 players and one or two may have to drop out during the session. So definitely that adaptability. I think it's been approachable. That's a quality they need to have. Um, that people, the players, will ask you questions. If you ask them questions, they'll give their opinion, because you don't want nodding dogs. You want people, you want players to give opinions as well, because as a coach, you can learn from that. It is the type of communication. So, I talked about that fun and engaging environment, but that can come from your communication as well. If you're energetic, if you've got lots of energy as a coach, hopefully that will rub off on the players. Now I can, depending on certain circumstances, I can be quite energetic, but then other times I can be quite quiet, and that will show where I might not think it's showing, but it does show, so that can have an impact. I think, um, yeah, we talked about that adaptability. We talked about communication. We talked about fun and engaging. We said you asked for five, yeah.
Yeah, five. To be fair, yeah, five if you can think of five. Or
I think, yeah, I think, you know, that proper preparation, if you like, so being organized, you know, if a lot of the coaches I've worked with recently are really strong at setting their plan on paper, an hour before the session. I can't do that.
yeah,
I need to be fully prepared beforehand. Um, so they are, yeah, so they're strong that way. That doesn't work for me, but I need to be fully prepared beforehand to know, I'm planning for 14 players, but if a player drops out through injury or doesn't turn up, this is what I'll do. And that helps me. So that planning, that organization, even as simply, and you would have gone through your practice layout and your transition, etc.
mm,
When you place your cones. So that's a good quality for me, for me, for coaches. So that, that kind of, yeah, organization, planning, preparation. Um, I, I've gone off track a little bit, I think, but
that's okay. Those qualities are fine. That's absolutely
yeah,
fine. In terms of the, I'm a little bit same with organisation, to be honest. I know you have to be able to adapt and understand that, but when like a poll goes into the WhatsApp group of who's going to train, and then they let the manager know, but then the manager doesn't let you know that four have actually dropped out, then
yeah,
it becomes really difficult, doesn't it? And
that
I,
that happens. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so yeah, those sort of things I can relate to a little bit. In terms of obviously you spoke about different experiences, you spoke a little bit around maybe some things you found quite challenging. But what do you think's been the biggest challenge you faced as a coach, or maybe just throughout maybe your different roles? And what did you do to overcome this? And upon reflection, do you think you dealt with it well?
yeah. I think I'll go back to what we talked about just now about the planning and being prepared. I think if I'm not prepared, if I am planning and not prepared, then that's a challenge. So being, as I said, being planned, being prepared. But then if you're not the manager will have their ideas of what they want and where they're strong in, designing the session just beforehand is to overcome my not feeling prepared, I guess, is I have to really, when they're talking, take it in, write it down, etc. To try and be prepared. So that's a challenge. I think, yeah, when I'm prepared, I feel confident. If I'm not prepared, I don't feel confident, which then can lead to other issues because you think, well, you know, what if I say this and it's wrong? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So, so my confidence suffers. So yeah, they talk about, you know, um, confidence comes from being competent. So being competent means being fully prepared. So that's how I've got to overcome it. Now there's other challenges I faced. Um, is that imposter syndrome. So when I'm being, watched by maybe people with more experience than me, maybe people more qualified than me with a good career, etc. Then in the past, not so much now, but in the past, that would affect my confidence because in the back of my mind, then I'm thinking, what are they saying? What are they, are they being critical, etc. However, I think as I've got more experienced, I can often be the real me, if you like. I was delivering a coach education session last year on a course, and it was a defending session. And one of the coaches who took part in the session, he turned to me after it and said, "You really enjoyed that, didn't you?" And I did. I had a buzz off it, and it was good that it went well, but I was prepared for it. But that brings out the real me, if that makes sense. So yeah, my confidence can suffer, or as suffered in the past, through things like, that imposter syndrome. Am I
Mm.
good enough to be here? What are they saying? However, I think, while it's not easy to accept, football is a game of opinions, and
Yeah.
people are always saying, if you're delivering a session, someone will say, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I do it, which I'm totally fine with, by the way.
Hmm.
You know, it's something we preach on our courses, that adapting what you see to suit your own environment. So I'm totally fine with, but yeah, that has been an issue for me in the past.
Yeah. I suppose if you're working in environments where you've got good relationships, now you said you're with Wits at the moment, and you've worked with previous people that you've got a relationship with, that can be helpful, because then they challenge you in the right way. Like you said, if someone's coming to you who you have a good relationship with, and they're saying, "Well, have you thought about this in the session?" That could be really helpful. Whereas
Yeah,
if it's somebody you don't know and they come and tell you, you're not sure how to take it, are you? So it can be really
yeah.
difficult.
I think just thinking there, Scott, another challenge for me was, in the early days, was overcomplicating things, thinking that, the sessions I was putting on, at the club I'm talking about now, not
Mm.
coach education, was trying to think that it had to be this, this big thing, where football really want footballers want simple things. I don't mean
Yeah,
that in a negative way. So we trained yesterday morning, and which put the session on, um, which is going to support our game on Tuesday. It was a really simple session, but it was really relevant to how we want to
mm.
play on Tuesday. So you
Yeah,
didn't complicate anything, you know. Um, didn't complicate anything. Just that simplicity is sometimes better, and that was a challenge that I used to have, but I've overcome that now from experience.
yeah. I was coaching at Westfields up in Hereford last season, and I would travel probably an hour and a half up to the session. The session was only an hour, and I'd travel an hour and a half back down to Bristol. And I would think, well, I need to go up and coach, because I've only got an hour, so I want to coach. Um, but there might be some parts of it where the other coach would coach. We'd have half an hour each. So I'm only coaching for half an hour leading. And
Yeah,
I think, well, I want to make sure now that I'm actually coaching in the session. But the players were turning up. They just wanted to work their socks off for that time and just have loads of ball rolling time.
yeah,
So I was going in and coaching and stuff. And I sort of realized then that they're not engaged with it, because they just want the ball to be rolling. They want to be playing. So I had to adapt and change my sessions to just have lots of ball rolling time, lots of intensity, and I got more from it then in terms of output from the players. Even though,
yeah,
in terms of the coaching side of it, maybe I wasn't going and doing coaching processes and interventions and stuff so much, but I was getting more from them. So
yeah.
it's like you said, it's about reading the environment a little bit as well, isn't it? And getting it from that.
100%. I think, yeah, totally understand where you're coming from, and adding that competition in then when they've got the ball rolling time. That's what I won't say found most challenging, because that'd be wrong, but that's what I found most interesting, I guess, is they won that competition.
Yeah,
If they're in a possession practice and the ball goes, like, 2 inches over the touchline, and you're thinking, I just want to keep it going there. They're screaming and shouting in a
yeah,
fun way, but it's, it's our ball's gone out. And if you don't give it to them, then giving back possession, that can lead to problems.
yeah. I would say that's probably the most where I've had the most criticism as a coach is refereeing small-sided games with
Oh, I
senior
hate it.
players.
Yeah,
That's probably where I've had the most criticism. They could kick
yeah,
the ball out and they'll still claim it's their throwing, but
yeah,
that's
yeah, definitely.
yeah, that's probably a big challenge. You recently released a book.
Yeah,
Do you want to speak a little bit about the book, and also, I suppose, what was the inspiration behind it?
yeah, certainly, and appreciate that. So yeah, I recently released a book. It's called Rise Above, Reclaim Your Life with a Transformational Mindset. So it's a self-help book, really. There's practical tools to help people overcome areas of their life they may struggle with. So within the book, there's like 14 chapters, but they're only small chapters, and it covers areas like, confidence, resilience, breaking free from overthinking, overcoming imposter syndrome, anxiety, um, overcoming perfectionism. So yeah, each chapter, as I said, it's a self-help book, but each chapter then has them tools to help people. With most of the chapters, I can relate to them personally. Um, so yeah, hopefully, the book can help people. I know it's helped people already. People who bought the book have reached out to me to tell me how they're going to keep reading at different times of their lives, etc., or different points of their lives, I should say. Um, to support them, because everybody will have something that they'd like to improve. Now, the reason I wrote the book, I guess, is alongside my day job as the coach educator for the FAW, I'm also a mindset coach. So that's for coaches, managers, and leaders. Just trying to help them. I haven't been doing it long, but help them achieve their peak potential really through that transformational mindset coaching. So again, overcoming some of the barriers we just talked about to help them, maybe gain success in areas of their life, not just professionally, but personally as well. So on the back of this, I started out with the thought process of writing an ebook to try and basically publicize what I do. So it's going to be a free ebook, a couple of chapters to publicize what I do. However, as time went on, I was writing it, I was thinking, oh, this needs to go in here and this needs to go in here. So I thought, okay, well, let's let's try and put it into a book. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't have any idea of how I would get it published, etc. at the time. But I just writing the book. And then with the organization I'm still with, called the Coaching Masters. Again, it's more about life coaching than sports coaching. Um, some of the information they give, there's a website called Fiverr. Don't know if you've heard of it, but on Fiverr there's it's Fiverr. But on Fiverr there's lots of different experts who can help you build websites, publish books, build CVs, logos, lots of different things. So on the Coaching Masters, they told us about Fiverr. So I went on there and I found like it was a gentleman, it was, but part of a company, I think, that published books for people, self-published books. So I paid him, I think it was about 60 odd quid, to be fair, 70 quid, something like that. It wasn't too expensive. So I give him the kind of book. It was all on a Word document.
Mhm.
Him and his colleagues then formatted the book, if you like, put it and then published it for me through Amazon KDP. It's a self-publishing company. So that's how the book was published through this gentleman and his company, and they did all that work for me. I obviously wrote the book and they put it together. They designed the covers for me, etc., and then published it. Now, alongside that, I had a thought, well, I wanted to do something for charity. So last year I did something for prostate cancer, and I did Movember, which covered prostate cancer, men's mental health, etc. So I wanted to do something for charity, to raise money for charity. So I chose Latch, which is a Latch. Long story, but Latch supported me and my family almost 30 years ago when my son was ill. Um, so Latch supports children with cancer and leukemia and their families. So Latch is like the Welsh cancer charity, if children's cancer charity. So based at the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff. So spoke with Latch. I put an event on 20 odd years ago to raise money. It was we had a gentleman called Wilf McGuinness who came and spoke to us. Now he used to be manager of Man United, played for Man United back in the 60s, manager after Sir Matt Busby. also coached at England. So I met him at an event, and then he came down to South Wales to put in a to to speak at the event, um, which raised money for Latch. So they've always been supporter of Latch because of what they did for us and our family. So
Mm.
they've got like rooms at the hospital that if your child's in hospital, the families can stay in the rooms. They got social workers, and they don't get any funding, government funding. So it's all through donations.
Yeah,
Big charity. So I wanted to raise money for Latch, and the book um, hopefully will raise money for Latch. Last time I checked, there's about 90 copies had been sold. Now I don't know whether that's good or bad. I don't know. I haven't got a clue, to be fair. But so the book, yeah, that was kind of lots of different things there of why I started the book, and then why I carried on, and then obviously supporting Latch. Um, and I yeah, just hope I can get more promote the book more through Latch, etc., and
yeah,
through my own avenues. Um, and then, yeah, as I said, hopefully, well, I know the book will help individual people, but at the same time, it'll help Latch, and you know, you'd love to think we'd be in a world where people wouldn't need Latch's support, but
yeah,
unfortunately, they do. And I've seen and experienced the great support Latch can give to families. Even with us at the time, like some financial support as well. So it's brilliant charity. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the final reason, I guess, for the book as well.
yeah. That's brilliant, brilliant, really, really good. Um, I'll buy a copy. I'm going to buy a copy of the book because I think just
Yeah,
speaking to you,
yeah,
there's bits that I can relate to.
yeah,
Instead of just speaking to you, so I know that'll be really helpful for me. But also, like I said, in terms of the charities and stuff, it sounds like they do some really good work. So I think it'd be really beneficial if as many people as possible can buy the book. Or donate to the charity if they're not sports people and just want to donate to the charity. So we'll share the charity page and the book page and stuff on where are they able to buy it? Is it on Amazon?
it's on Amazon. It is in three formats. You can buy it through ebook, paperbook, paperback, sorry, and hardback. Um, yeah, so I've obviously got friends who bought all versions, to be honest. Some have had
Yeah.
an some paperback. Depends on how the individual
Mm.
prefers to read. But the book is not just for sports people. It's for anybody in any walk of life. There's little bits about sport in there, but there's about businesses in there. People that businesses, how they've overcome. Um, let's say imposter syndrome then.
Yeah.
So each chapter would be, what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome in action. There's like little quizzes then for you to kind of self-assess where you're at, and then there's tools then to help you overcome imposter syndrome or whatever area you're struggling with.
Yeah. No, it sounds really, really good. And just lastly, before we finish, what's next, or say what's next for you? Is this something that you still haven't achieved or that want to achieve? I know I I'm similar, so I'll be like, well, I've done that, and then they're like, well, what's next? Obviously, you've done your book now. Is this something that you think, right, that's next for me, or are you thinking I'm just going to take a step back because I've been really busy?
No, you're 100% right, Scott. I think when I finished the book and it was published, almost straight away it was what's next. And I didn't think I'd think like that because
Yeah,
the book took a long time. But what's next is obviously to keep developing as a coach educator. You know, I I lead the C certificate. I work on the C license. I work on the B license, and now started doing mentoring on the A license international course. So keep developing in work. But then, as I said, I've got this. this kind of side business, if you like, which is called Peak Mindset Coaching UK. Um, I've got a website which it's been built for me, but I've got to start to kind of add some information into there. Um, Along, for this mindset coaching. So keeping developing that to help people. Now, I think my area, obviously, of knowledge, experiences with coaches and managers and leaders. So helping, if people want my help as a kind of life coach, then helping people that way. So it's kind of, yeah, developing that. And then, James Rowbury, who was our lead coach education manager, just left us actually to go to Stoke City. He when he I've known James for years and years, but when he came back in to our organization about 2 years ago, he spoke about the informal education of how people learn, you know, and that could be as simple as, well, not simple, but reading books, listening to podcasts. Now, I set out for last year to read books, listen to podcasts, and I've made a note on my iPad of every book I've read, every podcast I've listened to, and the take-home messages, and that has helped me develop massively,
Mm.
massively. And it's not just football. I read the Arnold Schwarzenegger book, brilliant book, had a massive impact on me. Dan Carter, the New Zealand All Black, brilliant book again, massive impact. So that's I wouldn't say that's what's next, but that's what I'm going to continue, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I've already started this year already with the podcasts, and yeah, I got a couple of books on the go, audio book and one to listen and one to read as well. So yeah, just continuing to keep developing, but to, yeah, develop myself in, with the FAW, which is, a brilliant organization to work for. I've been there 17 and a bit years now, and it's getting better and better all the time. The work we are doing as an organization, and obviously seeing the rewards now with the women's team now qualifying as well for the first time, and some of the younger age groups qualifying for tournaments for the first time, and you know, so I want to keep developing there, but alongside that, develop my own business, I guess.
Yeah, that's brilliant and a really good way to end, I think. Thank you so much for your time. I really
No
appreciate
problem.
it. I
No, I
know
appreciate
that,
the opportunity.
yeah, I think it's we spoke for quite a bit and it's been really good and I'm looking forward to buying the book and reading it and I hope other people do as well because even just having discussed had discussion with you just now for I think just under an hour maybe, but I think it's been really beneficial for me and stuff that I can relate to a lot. So hopefully everyone else feels the same.
No, I appreciate that, Scott.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thanks for your time, mate.